Welcome to Toffee TV. I am joined by John Blake, Chairman of the Shareholders Association and a third of the Everton Business Matters podcast. It's the best one, it's my favourite one. I do like Roger and I do like Paul, but John's the man. John's like...
I live locally.
John's like, no, but Roger's one way, Paul's the other, and you're the man steering the ship in the middle.
Reviews.
Pulling them in. No, he's friend of the show and everything else in between and beyond that. Well, John, last time you were in, we discussed the upcoming stadium stuff, and we were hoping that some information would come out. You then went on holiday, and while you were on holiday, this thing kicked off.
It did.
So first things first, the way the stadium consultation has come about and the club's timeline, I suppose, for the next 6 months. Were you when you first heard it? Were you surprised? Was it what you expected, or were you a little bit disappointed in terms of we're having this public consultation? We're not going to hear anything till the summer. Then plan an application.
Yeah. I think probably because I'd heard the phrasing public consultation. It brings connotations, doesn't it? And I think I said this on Business Matters. I wasn't surprised.
Okay.
Yeah. I do think that there's line of sight now, and certainly the last Business Matters where we had a really good interview with Richard Kenyon, who's obviously the right guy, because all this comes under him, I guess. All the communication side of it and the community side certainly does, and of course it's got marketing in it. So no, I'm not hugely surprised.
Okay.
I think it inevitably it can be frustrating for people because we still get into, when are we going to see images? What's the capacity going to be? Because for Evertonians, perhaps they're the two biggest things. What's the capacity and what's it going to look like? But for the public, it's a lot more. And it is a public consultation. And again, I'll say it again, on Business Matters, inevitably that means the questions are quite simple, almost bland, aren't they? And half the questions are really about you, who are you, sort of thing. And that's to allow segmentation to take place, and for strong messages to go in the planning application. X% of this segment said this. So I'm not hugely surprised.
Okay.
I think one of the things that's important is that probably for the first time we have a timeline.
An official timeline.
Yeah, an official timeline. The club, did the launch of the People's Project. They then said that public consultation would start on a given date, and it has. I guess today, I don't know if you've memorised it, but the battle wagon is out there somewhere.
It's at,
in one of the retail parks somewhere.
It's at Liverpool 1.
Well, there you go. So it's at Liverpool 1. People should go there if they can. You get to see the boards and the messages and all that good stuff. You can do the survey. And people should do the survey. I mean, we've just been talking off camera, haven't we? There's 30-odd thousand season ticket holders at Everton, and I can't imagine why every single one of them wouldn't do the survey. And then lots more people beyond that can do the survey.
So you should get a really good sample size.
But the bigger the sample size, the better. And it is a real opportunity for Evertonians to, even though it's a public consultation, which means it's open to the whole public, unlike the fan consultation, which we did earlier in the year, we can still give our views and lay it on quite heavily, I guess. And if the heavy view that people want to try and get across includes things like capacity, then take your opportunity.
What do you say to people who are asking, why is it a public? Why do we feel the need to have a public consultation? Because when people have asked me, because we were at a meeting, I've tried to explain it myself, but in terms of yourself, because people are wondering, if this is a stadium for Everton, why does it have to go out to public consultation?
Okay, I guess I'm no planning expert.
No.
But
from your understanding,
I've arranged for things to get built, but I let somebody else do all that hard bureaucratic process. I mean, people like Spurs did it. City did it when they built the academy, and I'm sure our friends from the dark side thought they did it when they were building the Lego stand. But in a more brutal sort of way, I guess. I guess the real question is not why are we doing a public consultation, but why are we going big on it? Because I think we're doing way above what we'd have to do to tick the boxes. And that's because we want to make sure that when we put the planning application in, and again, this is the way I'm choosing to articulate it, is we submit a planning application, which is fundamentally saying, can we build a stadium, please? Yeah. Maybe I'll turn that off in a sec. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Maybe what we are trying to do indirectly is say, dare you not to say yes. We've covered all the bases. We've given everyone the opportunity to give us their view. We've shared the outcome of those views. Yeah. And why would we not do this? You know, when you've got citizens of our great city, and in fact the wider city region, saying they want this to happen, then politicians are going to struggle to say no. Will that also mean people like, or organisations like Historic England will struggle to say no, or UNESCO will struggle to say no? Time will tell. But I think if you got to the far end of this, and you've submitted your application and someone suddenly said, well, you haven't actually asked anybody. You know, and so I think that's part of the reason. I also think we've had stadium failures in the past, and we're just making sure it's like a measured overreaction, as I would say. We're doing a hell of a lot more than we need to, and I think that's goodness, as long as it doesn't negatively impact the time scales. But you ask the question, why? Well, World Heritage Site, iconic place on the banks of the Royal Blue Mersey, all the other things that are going to have to be done to enable it, you know, around infrastructure, roads, train stations, blah blah blah, then it's actually quite a big venture, which won't happen without the stadium. But the stadium won't happen unless there's, let's say, popular support for it.
What do you say to people?
Turn this off,
You can leave it on, it doesn't matter. What do you say to people who whose fear, I suppose, is that it's opening it up to criticism, as opposed to where Everton, I suppose some people would think if Everton just downplayed it a bit, you might be able to get past this bit without the disconcerting voices, I suppose. If
you know your history, then the football club stuck its head in the sand for many a long while. Whilst really good guys at places like, you know, organisations like Keep Everton in our city, saying this is going to get called in, this is going to get called in, and it did. Okay, I would encourage anyone out there to come up with any goddamn reason or excuse you can why this shouldn't happen. Fill the survey in, particularly our red friends. Fill the survey in, tell people what you think, and let's get all the objections out as soon as possible. Because if the objections are genuine and can't be overcome, it won't happen.
True.
If they can be overcome, it might or will happen. But getting told, you know, a deal breaker at 23:59, it's not really what you want. Okay, and so I think what's really important for the football club is that we do these 2 weeks, and we're into the 2 weeks already. Is to make sure that the messaging and the communications continues, that it doesn't go into a period of radio silence, then they suddenly pop up next summer and say da-na, you know, sort of thing. And I'm sure they'll do focus groupy type things in the background and so on. But again, as Richard said in that interview, you know, we will inform fans and the public as we go down track. And if we say we're going to do something on a certain date and we can't, we'll explain why not. And I think that's them learning the lessons of the recent past, when we've had, well, until this, we've had silence, haven't we, since Dan Meese and the like did the stuff at St Luke's. So it's a venture that can make a massive difference to the city and really make that Liverpool Waters promise, which has been a promise for quite a long time now, something real.
What do you make of the actual the process, I suppose, the fact, obviously it's available online, so there's no excuse. If you're an Evertonian living wherever, you can fill it in, and you should be filling it in. Even if you're an Everton, we've got American viewers, Australian viewers. You're a Blue.
Fans are throughout the world.
With a view, fill it in. Blue with a view, I like that one. Fill it in. What do you make of the process of, you know, in terms of the questions?
The questions themselves. I mean, I guess, you know, a large percentage of the people who watch your stuff hopefully have seen it already. The questionnaire or the survey, whatever you want to call it. Inevitably, as I said before, they're simple. You know, is it a good idea to stay in the city of Liverpool? Is it a good idea to stay in North Liverpool? Are you an Evertonian? You know, that sort of stuff. The real key, I think, is when you get a bit of free format and you get the opportunity. I think it's question 6, isn't
it?
There's one question where you can get all, you know, what's his name? The guy who wants the small boats, Jeff.
It's Jeff.
Question 6 is your question, Jeff. Bring the small boats up.
Hang your kites,
and what have you. And there's a serious element to that as well, because there's a whole host of things beyond just a stadium, what it looks like and its capacity, isn't there? There's things to do with how will it be branded, how will it be lit, what sort of concessions are going to be there, from a food, restaurants, what about transportation, what about this, what about that, what about the other? And that free form question is really, the football club's going big on having quite a wide and far-reaching public consultation, and question 6 is the opportunity for the people doing the survey to go big on their real thoughts and views and what have you. I think the club will probably need to explain how they're going to address that free format stuff, because the tick box stuff is easy to analyse, and how they're going to ensure that both popular and unpopular views
are equally measured.
But that's the big one, and that's the one that needs thought. I think people you could do the questionnaire in 2 minutes if you just don't answer question 6, but I think you're letting yourselves down, and perhaps letting the whole project down if you've got something to say and don't say it.
What if you've got nothing to say?
If you've got nothing to say,
I'm happy with. Just make it 61,878 and we're happy.
Well, put that on question 6 then.
That's
if you don't have any angst or you think the other questions have stated your position adequately enough, then that's fine.
That's fine, isn't it?
I would be surprised, Evertonians being Evertonians, if that would be the case for many, though. If you can't be asked, that's not the right reason for not answering questions.
Well, I suppose certainly Mike. I mean, I filled it in on day one.
So did I.
We were down at the Blue Base, so it was filled in there. And I think my thing with question 6 was literally, I wanted to benefit the city, but I want it to be the biggest capacity it can be for Everton Football Club, to help the club move forward, and that was it. I didn't feel I needed to put anything else, for the simple reason that I trust that they will have experts who will make it look the best and have enough food outlets, make it benefit the surrounding area, which is the big thing. I think it's fantastic. It's going to supply us with jobs. It's going to bring more income into the city. I've seen people going, well, I seen someone on Twitter actually last night going, how is it going to attract another 1 million people to the city? And
1.5 million, isn't it?
The key, 1.5 million, sorry. Well, the key thing is if there's more seats available, then more people come in. So we're in there. That's first and foremost. Is one of the answers, isn't it? If Everton can only get 39,700 now or whatever it is into Goodison Park, if you can all of a sudden get 55,000, say. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. I'm just using that as an example. Then you're 16,000 people up every match day.
But take that as an example, because you were sounding negative then, as if to you it's intuitive. I just think it'll get more people will come.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of people out there who can do statistical analysis.
Of course.
Who live and breathe for it. And the like. And it's a reasonable question to say you're making these assumptions about the uplift in income to the city or the city region and all those sorts of things, and numbers of tourists, whatever you want to call them. So why wouldn't you explain how you calculated the numbers? I'm sure it's prorated.
Well, they probably will, but its sample size is well used with what Liverpool have generated, because their stadium's gone up from 44 to 52, is it, or whatever it is, but 54, whatever theirs is. It's jumped, so that numbers increase, so the visitors have increased. If you've got, it's like anything. If you want to do it, if you just want to do it the most basic thing, right, to explain the most basic example, if I'm on a cruise ship and I dock in Sociedad, if you can dock in Sociedad, wherever, and Real Sociedad are at home, and I'm there for the day, I say to my missus, I want to go to a match if I can get it.
Yeah, but that cruise ship, which is going to come into the new cruise terminal, and it's going to sail up the Mersey, and it's going to pass
the ground,
the lovely new stadium on the banks of the Royal Blue Mersey. Is that cruise ship coming because the stadium's there?
No.
And that's when you get into, if we're saying that this project
will
increase the number of tourists by a certain number,
but people will, won't they? People will come in.
And all we need to know, if people need to know, is what assumptions have you driven to make that happen? And I don't know, because I've not asked the question, and I'm not the sort of person who gets mega hung up on it right now, but that's an objection that could come in a planning committee. Yeah, if we're going big, which we are, in the benefits to the city, then we've got to convince the people who make the decisions to say yay or nay that they believe that the benefits to the city are not just some fancy PowerPoint slide, but are really going to come, or at least to a point are really. Of
course, but again, it's with anything, isn't it? I always quote Sunderland, 17,000 at Roker Park, couldn't sell it. Moved to the stadium like 47,000.
We're not talking about that.
No, but but that's people coming into it's people coming in, visitors coming
to
in
the city.
Everything. To the city, so that then brings your visitors up, doesn't it?
10,000 extra seats, 19 games.
Yeah,
it's not 1.5 million.
No, but what's it over? They could say for over the next 30 years that's under 1.5 million.
We're having the debate, aren't we?
Yeah.
We don't know.
No, we don't know.
So let's not guess.
So I'm saying, what I'm saying is, if you're basically looking at it, those key people that you just said, and the people who are experts in their field, and the statisticians and everything else, I've projected this figure. I'm just using it as, I haven't got all of that. I'm not a statistician in terms of who's coming into the city, but I'm just saying, in a broad brush way, as you like to say, literally by just going increased capacity, different visitors into the city, all of a sudden that becomes a tourist attraction.
Of course.
To go to somewhere brand new on the banks of the Royal Blue Mersey, next to a new bossed ferry terminal. As the city sprawls, as 10th Street grows, visitors come in, and it becomes an attraction.
And that's the point. And Liverpool Waters, it makes the city centre bigger because it extends further out.
Of course it does.
And all we don't know right now is what assumptions are behind those claims. So let's not guess, because
I will guess, because this is what we're here for.
But I pretty much, can guarantee that when the planning application goes in, if those numbers are part of the application,
they'll be
then the evidence will be in it on how it's been calculated.
It has to be, doesn't it?
Of course,
it has to be.
And it's ultimately this will bookend.
It will
increase the likelihood of the development taking place at all in between. Increase the likelihood of it happening sooner, and all that's got to be good for the city.
Of course, and the jobs it generates, because it's there, and there'll be things around it which the club isn't able to generate now where it is. So all of that is a massive positive for me. Let's move on to I suppose the bugbear of the whole thing with a lot of people is the capacity. Okay, we know where your view is, right? I know that you want upwards of 60, don't you? You want
60 above 60.
Yeah. So we do, and I'm in that camp as well. I want it more than 60, and that would be lovely. I'm of the opinion that the club know what the capacity is. I just feel as though, so I want to get because I know that you don't really. I don't think you believe they do know what the capacity is, do you? But I think they do.
I don't think, because I trust people until I've got a reason to prove that it wasn't true. I don't think they've made a final decision.
Okay.
And as a guy whose day job can be submit proposals for pieces of work and stuff, I can assure you at 3 o'clock in the morning, when it's going to be submitted at 9 a.m, you're still changing stuff.
Okay.
Now maybe a physical construction, is slightly different. So I'm comfortable that they tell me they haven't made a final decision.
Okay.
But when the 52 to 55 number that Mashiri implied to me, in a meeting in the summer, has been in the mindset for quite a while, then it's likely to be that number, isn't it? That doesn't mean they finally decided. Which goes back to question 6 again, really.
Exactly.
That the public who are responding in the consultation, if they have a feeling about what they think the capacity should be, and all those other things we talked about before, which are a bit more detailed than you can do with the other questions, say so. Because when they, as a football club, get third parties and statistical experts and so on to come up with a view, a forecast of what attendances might be, and therefore what capacity you need in the stadium, that's all based on assumptions.
It is,
there has to be assumptions on there somewhere. And those assumptions come from historical attendances. And so when you look at the third party they've done, they say, well, we do all these fancy regression analysis and all that sort of stuff. If they're using assumptions around historical attendances, but how far have they gone back? Have they gone back to when Goodison had 78,000 people in it? Of course not. You know, have they gone back to the start of the Premier League? Have they gone back to the last time we won something, and so on and so forth? Yeah. And clearly they overlay that then with things like, well, what happens when you have a new stadium anyway? Well, yes, everybody knows new stadiums increase, you know, attendances because of that feel-good thing that it brings. But how do you compound that up? It's not just a new stadium. It's an iconic new stadium, and it's not just an iconic new stadium, it's an iconic new stadium on the banks of the Royal Blue Mersey, and it's not just one of those, it's on a World Heritage Site, which goes back to you and your tourists and so on. They won't have a model that addresses that, so they'll have to make assumptions. So in broad terms, they can come up with a number that satisfies whatever the brief was that they gave. And I saw some dialogue, as we all do, on Twitter this morning about this, and let's be honest, there are loads of Everton fans out there who think 52's plenty.
I've seen someone say 45 is enough this morning.
And so for every person who wants it to be 60 or whatever, there'll be someone who thinks 50 is enough, you know, and some of those are damn good statisticians as well, Gavin. So those people are out there. So if you're out there right now and you have concerns that the capacity might be too big and it will compromise us and the atmosphere won't be what it should be because there'll be empty seats and all that rubbish, go and do question 6 and say so. If you're the opposite, who think, of course we can fill 61,878 and will do for the majority of games, and stop using the excuse of Stoke City on a wet Tuesday night, you know, because of course it won't be full on those days. But the stadium also has to accommodate not where we are, but where we're going to be.
Where we want to be,
And the nightmare scenario is that there's 20, 30, 40,000 Evertonians sitting on a waiting list who've got no chance of seeing the team live because the stadium's too small. Because then you get into, you know, is it expandable? If it is expandable, what's it going to cost? What does that mean to ticket prices? Because, I mean, the other lot are stalling increasing their stadium because their fans have said we won't pay the ticket prices. And so you just price people out with ticket prices, or you stop people going through lack of capacity. And there's a sweet spot somewhere where the stadium shouldn't be smaller than a certain size. And you've told me that must be, based on what you've told me, that must be around 55,000. So that becomes 55,000 should be the smallest, but we know they're considering 52. Then there'll be objective people who say 3,000, what difference does that make? See what I mean? So you can easily go down a cascade. It's all about ambition.
Well, what
at the end of the day, it's all about ambition.
Well, what about, because me and Pat done this last week or the week before, we were talking about it in terms of capacities and stuff. What about if Dan said, right, at 55 I can create this incredible stadium that's going to give you noise and it's intimidating, it's right on top of the pitch without losing anything, but if we go to 61 it's going to lose that, like, you know, the proximity with the pit, it's going to lose the noise. I think it's going to lose something, it's going to lose the intimidation for the way it has to be built. So I suppose it depends how much you value that, what we'll get from the 6,000 or 7,000,
whatever it is,
7,000 seats we'd like it, which is what it will be between 55 and 61,878. Where would you stand on that? If he said to you, John, 55, I can have it intimidating, and it's going to be, you know, it's going to be right on top of the pitch, but the designs have to change for it to be 61, and it's not going to be the same. And
we really get to the nub of it, because we have this conversation with all our mates, don't we, over a beer and stuff, and we've certainly talked about it on business matters and the like. It comes down to, and Richard said that next summer we'll see images of the stadium before the planning application goes in, and we'll also know what the capacity is, and the club will explain why the capacity is that capacity. The one that gets used so often as a justification for a lower capacity is we won't fill it.
Right.
Which I do not believe. I fundamentally do not believe that we would not fill the mythical 61,878. If the reason for having a lower capacity is something else, like what you just said, so let's just pick some, can't afford it. It's the cost. then it becomes a return on investment calculation, and Paul's out there, you know,
the Esk.
and I think he's done that one to death 1,000 times. And if you don't believe, go and read his blogs, where he'll do his damnedest to convince you that money shouldn't be the reason. From an affordability point of view. If it's atmosphere, which is intangible, it's opinion, we won't know till it's built whether he was right or wrong. And I don't know how an architect would say, well, if the stadium's 55,000 people, the atmosphere is going to be fantastic, but at 60 it won't be.
I meant design, structure.
Well, even so, you know, I mean, you know, on the
I'm just looking for reasons that they might.
Indeed, on the Shareholders Association, you know, we have Tom Hughes, who's very much into this sort of stuff, and he could probably tell us just like that how many rows is that all the way around the stadium, the 5,000 seats, and so it's not huge. So I don't know, but to answer your question, if I got told, frankly, the atmosphere would be absolutely awesome with 55,000 in, and it'd be crap with 60, then I'll say let's have 55,000 then.
But it's got to justify why. Hasn't it?
And people, like I was having a debate with somebody on Twitter again, you know, because of TV money and the like, people are getting, rightly or wrongly, seduced into believing that the income from match day isn't that important. Well, it is, because, you know, if TV money, apart from the fact you get prize money for how far up the table you are, the real differentiator between clubs at the moment is match day income, player trading and commercial performance, all of which we as a football club know we've got rooms for improvement. Okay, we often say we're hamstrung by Goodison. Let's not be hamstrung at Bramley Moor. And yet we can increase the number of premium price seats and the like, but we also need to have a capacity that allows us to generate the income that we need to put assets on the field, whilst not pricing out the next generations, as the other lot are doing all day, every day.
It runs and runs, doesn't it? Right, I asked for a couple of questions off people. For you.
Who have you got?
Right, so Ben at Ben063 on Twitter.
Well, that's surprising that he's got a question.
Said, are you concerned that the club don't appear to have agreed on a design or capacity for the proposed Bramley Moor?
Concerned?
Are you concerned that they don't appear to?
No, I'm not concerned, because, you know, you do a right to left plan, don't you? And we have stated, although it's the definition of when summer is, that we'll submit a planning application next summer. So the capacity and the design needs to be ready for that, doesn't it? And I don't think they've thrown away what they've done before.
No.
I don't think everything Dan has done in the last year or two has gone on the fire. So they're going to be adaptions of what he's already presented, and it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out that any architect's going to go to the board with, you know, you gave me a brief and here's 2 or 3 concepts that you might want to pick. And if you get 10 Evertonians round a table, I know not all the board members are Evertonians, but if you've got 10 Evertonians round a table, they'd all have, well, I like that, well, I like that, well, I like that bit of that one, and that bit, and so on. So he goes away, doesn't he, and he revises it, and I think that's what he's doing now. I think he's got a modified brief around the stadium itself, which no doubt will be a hybrid of what was in the stuff he did before, and he'll come up with a new design, but it'll be recognisable, I guess, as being similar to the ones he's already done. So I'm not concerned at all now. But what we need to see is evidence, which we haven't seen previously, that the club is doing what it says, and, you know, and not allowing things to slip. So Richard, no doubt someone will tell him about this. We expect to see some communication, don't we, when this thing closes? Obviously there'll be standard stuff like thank you for doing it. But it would be nice to hear things about, like, how many people did it, for example. You know, and then the things around capacity being a bit vague and saying people want it to be above 50. You know, when we want to know how many people said above 55 and how many said above 60 and so on. So the degree of transparency will be interesting, but no, I'm not concerned here and now.
Dave Parkey 14 said, the more I look at other clubs' plans and how, for example, West Ham have seen a boost, there's no reason why we shouldn't be going for 60 plus. We've got 32,000 season tickets now and a waiting list as well. He thinks we can do.
That's easily. A statement rather than a question.
No, I know, but I'm saying he thinks we could easily do 60. And are you of that opinion?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, The Shareholders Association have written to the chairman of the football club expressing, if you like, our formal view of what we would like the capacity of the stadium to be.
Right.
And clearly, you won't be surprised to hear that it's in the 60 plus category.
Right.
And one of the things that we have said, which anybody can say, is the aspirational peer group that we have all have stadia currently bigger or plan to be bigger than the 52 to 55 that we think is the current working assumption for our stadium. And I think I said it last time I was on your show. You know, last season, the 6 above us, the infamous 6 or the big 6, they averaged 68,000. Okay, that was helped by Tottenham being at Wembley. But they averaged 68,000, and that's with Chelsea only having a 42, whatever it is, thousand capacity stadium, whatever it is. So when you talk about ambition, and Richard mentioned ambition again, and yet we can get third parties to do an analysis and so on, but ultimately the board's going to have to make an informed decision, but with a little bit of intuition as well, and a little bit of risk. And maybe the question to ask is, if we had a 62,000 seater stadium, could we price to fill it? And if we did price to fill it, would it provide an appropriate return on the additional investment necessary? And I think yes. And Paul, again, the ESC, he's done this modelling more than once, and if he's wrong, people rubbish it, you know. But he's had it out there quite a while, and no one's rubbished it. So that then comes back round that loop again of, if we are going to have a smaller stadium, why? And I, for one, will never accept because we wouldn't fill a bigger one.
Because how do you know?
And other reasons, like the one you called out, around because the design is such that the atmosphere would be best slightly smaller or whatever. But please don't give me the we won't fill a stadium, which Wolves will, West Ham will, you know, Newcastle will, whoever, and that's before you talk about the so-called, you know, City moving theirs up to 63 and so on. I just don't believe it.
No. One from Cumbrian Toffee. Would the proposed European breakaway league have an effect on our capacity at Bramley Moor? Could this be the reason why it seems the stadium plans have changed?
I don't think the stadium plans have changed. That's just a transient thing that's going on. This pops up every now and again, doesn't it? I mean, do you think a Super League going to happen in Europe? I don't.
I can see it.
Good luck.
Because I just think football knows no end to its greed, and these clubs are making ridiculous amounts of money already, and they're still not happy. They just, you know, we've just had a big uproar, and rightly so, over Scudamore. The last thing he's done as outgoing, you know, CEO or whatever he was of the Premier League, I know he's still staying on in the consultant capacity, was negotiate the international rights differently, so the top 6 get more money than anybody else. And 14 clubs apparently voted for that, which blows my mind, why you would vote for something to make you worse off to strengthen the others. So that isn't enough for them. They're still looking at ways to increase more. They want more of the pie. Factor that in with people like Paris Saint-Germain, who are playing in a one-team league.
Anyway.
Do you know what I mean? They can't go anywhere else. They're winning. They're not good enough for Europe because you have the players to go there. But they're too good for their own league. And Bayern Munich are waltzing the league, and apparently, according to Der Spiegel, are driving this bus. So all over the place, Real Madrid and Barcelona take 55% of television right money anyway. Hence why it's very difficult for anyone else to try and play. I know Atletico Madrid are doing very well this season, but they're kind of the exception.
They only average 60,000.
Yeah, but they get a big thing, so they're trying to bridge it slightly differently. So there's all this greed, and this greed shows no sign of letting up. So this proposal, whether it is or it isn't, is we all get guaranteed 500 million each year for 20 years, no relegation, no blah blah blah. So to the clubs, they're like,
where's the 500 million for all these clubs going to come from?
Well, apparently television.
Really?
Because, well, that's what the proposal is, isn't it? So you look and go, you could see why it might be.
Stand me corrected, it ain't going to happen.
No, well that's good, because I hope it. Yeah. Well, no, you know what? The reason
we need a bigger stadium if it does.
Well, it'll be us and Spurs going for the league, so that'll
every year.
Yeah, that'd be alright.
Champions League.
So we'd have our own.
UEFA are just going to, even with their interesting style of management, you know, go back to City and FFP and.
Well, they go, don't they?
They're not going to sit on the sidelines.
No, well, the clubs have to leave, don't they?
And what about players? They no longer play for their countries.
No, I know.
Image rights go out the window.
Yeah.
It becomes stale. I mean, I don't know, pick Arsenal. Well done, Arsenal. You can't get relegated, but you're bottom of your group every year. And by the way, every single away game, apart from the odd one,
in like Shanghai
is overseas somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, and then pretty quickly, if they're not careful, they think, you know, the problem with this Arsenal franchise is it should be in Newcastle, in New York, or somewhere like that. You know, so it's saber rattling at a European level, but of course, saber rattling at an English level created the Premier League in the first place.
I know. I did mention it last week.
So, but I just don't think it's going to happen, and I certainly don't think we stall short-term decisions. We're talking about decision here is less than a year away. On the back of something that may happen.
That may or
even
may
if
not.
It does may happen, it'll happen way down the line because they are members of a club, the English members.
Till 2020. Well, till the time we kick off in the stadium.
Exactly right. So if they want to go and run, then let them. Personally, you can get onto the conversation about would you want to be in a European league. It's great to say you're playing Barcelona, but isn't the excitement?
What's the point?
It doesn't happen all the time. And that very American, and I don't know whether this is driven by American owners of Premier League clubs.
Well, it's the ICC fella.
Let's not do relegation. What's that all about?
What's the point? Yeah.
Football without fans is nothing.
No. Well, I mean, I've spoke to the Red Men about it. They don't want it.
And Tottenham feeling left out.
Well, Spurs know that's the way it is, because it's money, isn't it? It's money driven, unfortunately.
So anyway, to answer the question, now I don't think we're making decisions here and now on the chances that something may or may not happen way past the date when we have to make our own decisions.
Before you went away, we were talking about when this stadium would hopefully be kicking off, and we were hopeful it may be 2022, but we did say it could be 23, just given by how long.
That was when our friends sitting.
Well, no, you were fair. It was just that we knew that it was behind. The project was behind a few months anyway, so that pushed it from 22 to 23. But are you confident it can be delivered in 23 if everything runs the way it should do?
Yeah.
Is the short answer.
Well, yeah, but
Roger, who was last on, and the reason I'm bringing it up because when Roger was on, him and his dad Doug, who was brilliant.
Should this be Roger?
They're talking. They were talking 24, 25.
On what basis?
Based on just because I think at the time it was 23, 24, but I think when this the time scale of the consultation and the People's Project came out, I don't think Roger was too enamoured by it. He thought it pushed it back.
It's how long's a piece of string at the end of the day. And, you know, when I asked Richard that question, he's quite right. I mean, the club will have a planning assumption of how long planning approval is going to take to get. You know, and heaven forbid it just becomes elongated and gets all very messy and called in and public inquiries and God knows what else. So there is a part of the project which you just don't know how long it's going to last. Which is that we've submitted the application, when are we going to get the answer back? But the rest of it has got contingency as far as I'm concerned. You know, 3 years to build it, 6 months before you start building, and those sorts of things. So that's not a sunny day plan. That's got contingency in it. And I think I've said to people, there's clearly potential if the approval comes sooner rather than later for it to be ready, you know, perhaps after 2022 season started, but not long after it. And therefore there is, I guess, a potential that we go into a new stadium partway through a season. So who knows? And that's where it's helpful that Spurs are knocking down all these barriers as to whether you can or can't play in multiple stadiums in the same season. And because certainly when we started this journey, we'd always assumed we have to do it on the boundary of the season starting.
I mean, what would you prefer? Would you prefer us to start the season as a fresh in a new stadium, or if they said, well, it'll be ready in January and we'll go? I mean, what? This is obviously just a question of personal choice.
Flying a kite, innit? It depends, doesn't it? The depends is if we have for example, my answer is slightly different. If we have a mid-season break.
Of course.
If you start the second half of the season in a new stadium, it's not as disruptive as you know. So, but traditionally, starting on that lovely summer's day in August would be the right answer, wouldn't it? and you know, maybe that gives us the contingency that Spurs wish they had.
Yeah. I mean, I personally I'd just do it at August 2023.
It's definitely going to happen on that date
in the sun, and off we go.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
you know what, the toilets are leaking, it can't open for another, and then just get all of that done and do all your testing.
And what we would expect then is once the build starts, notwithstanding we may find things on the site which we haven't found yet, and so on, we'd get ahead of time, wouldn't we?
Yeah, of course, because it keeps going then, and then it's up.
And I'm sure we can find other things to do in it. If it's ready.
Well, we'll see.
Early.
We'll see. We'll have a couple of games in it. We'll test it. We'll test it. We'll have it the bar challenge. See what it's like.
Semi-finals of FA Cups.
Or that. Oh yeah. Well, no, we'd want to play in it first.
We want to play first. That's what I said. Semi-finals of FA Cups.
Always gone there. That's it. Nearly. Unless there's anything else you want to bring up about it.
What's on your list?
We've ticked it all.
Yeah.
It started. So the process is ongoing.
Yeah.
It's vitally important that you fill it in. Honestly, if you're a non-Evertonian watching this, because some of you do,
especially so,
then fill it in. You know, and if you are an Evertonian, just because you're not a season ticket holder, just because you do not live in the city, just because you might not even live in the country, shouldn't stop you having an opinion on this whole process. Go online. You've got an email address, you can fill it in. Go and answer the questions, particularly question 6, if that's the one if that's where you get your opportunity to put in any concerns or any things you want.
Because if people have not seen it so far, like maybe they haven't. All the other questions, you just get asked a question. What age group are you in? Tick. Are you never season ticket holder? Tick. Question 6 is the one where you get to give your very personalised response.
And that's it.
It's not a personalised response. It's good list. It is.
Oh yeah.
While we were down there last.
Yeah, Ronnie. I saw you with Ronnie. Yeah. How's the book going?
I think he's pleased.
He's doing well.
You know,
it's a cracking book.
Well, it's in the stores now and it's online as well. And I think Fanatics were asking him to bring more books, so they must be selling more, which is goodness. And he's doing a Graham Sharp thing as well.
Yeah, sure that. Yeah.
So I'll go to Health Through Sports website and you can do that sort of stuff. And Crimbo books, good book for Crimbo.
Yeah, it's a good stock and definitely a good stock.
But back to that thing, which is perhaps the most. Sorry, Ronnie, more important.
Yeah. Sorry, Ron.
Fill the survey in, people.
Just do it. Get it done. We've got till the 1st of December. So obviously we're into week 1, aren't we? It started on Thursday. It's at Liverpool 1 for the next couple of days. But on the website, it gives you, if you want to personally go down, if you can, if you're able to,
it's worthwhile.
Go and have a look at it. A lot of information in there. People are lovely. It takes a couple of minutes to fill the stuff in, and you've done your bit. And if you can't get there, like I say, go online and do it. It's available for everybody. And I think, as an Evertonian, everybody should fill this in. Every member, if you're a member of 5 Blues in your family, all 5 of them should fill it in. I'm a fan, you know, I've got 3 kids, my missus, we've all filled it in, and that's what it's about. It's about getting your points across, regardless of it. You know what, you might have a family member who goes, I don't know, I'm worried about this, or what
I
about
don't care
this,
about that,
or I don't care. Put it in question 6, but fill it in, and then the bigger the sample size, then if the opportunity is there to eradicate naysayers then and go, well, yeah, a lot of people ask this question and there's the answer to that question. Yes, we have thought about this, that was brought up by X amount of people, rather than, like John said before, not doing it and then getting there and then them questions come in and the club's trying to find answers to it. They can be looking at answers now ahead of that planning application, because I think when you're putting a planning application in, you try to look at everything that can be called upon or can be questioned, and you want to get it out the way. And I think that's where this public consultation is important for the club.
Totally.
Get them all out the way before the actual paperwork.
And encourage your red mates particularly to do it.
Do it. Tell them to do it. And
it's good for them as well.
It is good. It's good for the city overall, isn't it? Great for Everton, great for the city. So if it's a win-win, there's no reason for you not to fill it in. Big thanks to John for coming in and joining us.
Roger's coming on soon, isn't he?
And Roger will be back in, so we'll get Roger's half empty.
Yeah. A week or two.
Yeah, a couple of weeks. I'll be interested. You're in as well with the man, yeah?
Yeah, should be.
So it should be a good game of tennis.
Should be some banter,
between the two. And Paul can come in and we can pixelate his face if he doesn't want to appear on telly. Of course, the door is always open. Big thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. It only takes a second. If you want more videos, get over to Patreon. But more importantly, fill in your public consultation form. See you later.
Good man.